everybody, this is our new project, a watercolor of orange and blueberries. And this is our supply list. We will be working with things that you have around the house. I think you should be able to do this project. Okay kids, let's get started. I have my paper, my pencil, my brush, my palette, my rag, my mixing palette, my water, which you see I've already been messing with, and my subject, which is fruit today. I've talked about this many times in my classes, that you put all your materials that you need to use, tools and media, or medium, as this is paint, to the dominant hand, because you don't want to be painting and dripping across or just bumping or rubbing your arm into whatever you're doing. So I have several students who are, their dominant hand is their left, so they would set up everything like this on their left side. The rest would set it up like this. Okay, so I'm going to block in or place my my fruit on my paper right now. So I have arranged it in a way that I can get each, you hear my fan went off, it was kind of loud. So let's block this in. Now what you see will be very different from what I see, because you're from above and I'm looking from the front or from the side, and I have a light source coming from the left over here to create some shadows. Now you would probably be able to sit by a window and have the sun coming in, or you could have a lamp that you set also by the side, but you could certainly do it with overhead lighting. That is not even the main deal here. We're just experimenting with watercolor. So I just wanted to get some nice shadows, and that's why I selected to do the light over here. So I'm going to sketch what I see. Now this is working on your observation skills. Don't be making it up. I mean, I'm not saying change your style, but I do want you to pay attention sections. We'll do that with paint, okay? So now, if you have a lot of graphite on here, you'll notice it will mix in a little bit with your watercolors. I don't mind that. We're talking more about colors. We'll mix colors, how to use the paint the right way. So let's start with the big guy. We're going to, let's get the edge, why have I forgotten what it's called? Maybe the zest? I'm not sure if that's the zest. Okay, so I've mixed, on this palette, there's a white, and I took a light yellow, which has some black or brown in it. And I've mixed those because I want to try and get this zest color. Now, as I was mentioning, it is mixing with the graphite, so it's turning a little bit green. That's okay. You'll hear me say that's okay a lot because I don't want you ever to feel stressed. I want you to enjoy the process. And so, yes, it is okay. Everything you're doing is learning, just observation skills and painting skills and drawing skills and focus and all of that. And all of that actually, outside of art, are all skills that come in very handy for other activities in life, as well as careers, and certainly more education. So I've got this kind of weird, it's not quite what I wanted yet. I think I could almost go with a little lighter here. Okay, we won't worry about that, we'll come back. But now the outer edge is a rind. The rind is very fine line that I can see. You probably see more of that. And you may be even able to see, this is propped up by another wedge back there. So you may see that, but I certainly don't for this painting. So I'm trying to keep this very thin here. This is a detail that you can always come back to. There's no order to this. The only order is to blocking in your subject first. So you have to do that. Then you move on to wherever you want to paint, wherever you want to start. And with watercolor now, you use the paper as your white most of the time. Unless you use what's called a gouache, and that's an opaque watercolor, and then that has a white in it, but we don't actually have that. So we are not going that route. Okay, I put this little rind on. Now, I've got a really nice thing going here. I've got this bright orange that's really too red orange. So I'm gonna put that over here. And then I want a lot of this yellow here. I'm gonna mix that over here. And then I want water because I want it to just flow. Now look at that beautiful color. Oh, my fan came back on. So you're gonna hear that. Actually, you'll probably hear my neighbors in the next room, the personal trainers, because it gets kind of loud with weightlifting and everything. Okay. So I'm doing this kind of as a suggestion of sections, but I'm not necessarily drawing them in. It's all about the flow of the watercolor, all right? So we won't even worry about, this gives you the impression that yes, there are sections. You do not have to paint solidly to cover up all this, white on your paper. It's all a visual message of how, what's in front of you, but we're not doing a photograph. We're doing a nice painting. And I'm going to show you how we're going to make the section lines in a little bit. So now you've got an idea of an orange. We're just getting these colors down. I love mixing this yellow with this orange. I think it's coming up with the color that I really need. So Nah, Elaine. If it comes off and you're getting dry brushing look, you want to get more water because we want to be very fluid with this. Now this is pretty bright. That's okay. We'll go maybe with this, and maybe I will pick up some of that. So what I did was I rinsed my brush, wiped off a little of the excess water, and then I came over here and used it like a sponge because the brush works beautifully to pick up like a sponge. So I'm just gonna do this. I was able to use this paint, pull it all over here, and I still had enough. So I had quite a bit on there. Now this side doesn't have as much light because the light's coming from there. So I want to darken this up. Let's see if I got it dark enough. And you know, the color might not exactly match, but you want it to be, the value needs to be right. Do you remember what value is? Value is, I know you're raising your hand or something, because I know most of you know, it's the light to dark. So, so on here, the value here is darker, and this is lighter. So we're gonna follow what we see. Actually, this one's kind of light, like this, and I will add color to the other. I already did one demonstration today and discovered that my hair, my crazy hair, was in the camera most of the time. So you were gonna get a terrible video, a nice painting, but a terrible video. So I will show you that painting after we're done with this, and you can see what the first try was like. It's very frustrating. And then when I put my camera together, the clamp that holds the camera on to the tripod broke. So it hasn't been such a good day for doing this, but I love to do this kind of watercolor. And so I'm good with it. It worked out. So I'm already showing a way that we can tell that the light is on one side versus not having light. So now I feel like this is too dark, and I want to pick up, there's like a shine on the middle section is definitely darker, but this side, this one is lighter. So again, I've rinsed my brush clean, patted off some water, and I'm just picking up some of the paint like a sponge. See that? It's like I'm just wiping it up. You don't want to use a Kleenex, don't use a paper towel or anything. That always, now my brush has lost a hair in there. That always just leaves a texture that you may not want. And so I'm gonna kind of mess with this area right here to give this texture. And again, I'm mostly interested in getting the colors. Oh, I got there we go. All right, now, I've just laid down base colors. Now this is quite a large section of this zest or vein or whatever it's called. So I'm going to do this again, clean my brush. I'm gonna lay it across here and just kind of scrub a little bit because I wanna be trying to pick this up. I'm not getting any more paint on my brush. And every time I do get paint on there, I'm gonna pick it up and wipe it, rinse it off. You see how it's getting lighter? Now I kind of want that to go this way and this way and down here. Now that didn't get as light as I want it to, but its value is where I want it, pretty close. It's not quite the right color, but, and maybe I'll do a little bit of this white yellow. Let's see if we can, it stays about the same there, so that's okay. We'll go here. Then I filled it right back in. Okay, pick it up. There. We'll leave it like that. This side too, I got a little bit carried away of how close. Picking it up. Now you may not have a brush this size, and that's okay. You use the brush that you have, use the materials you have, Now, if you don't have watercolor, which is understandable, maybe you have tempera paints, maybe you have acrylics. They can all work like this with water. Just thin them down. Okay, so these look kind of funny. What I'm going to do is let them dry just a tiny bit. Not even dry, they just get absorbed into the paper. I'm just going to get their shape. Okay, now I don't need any more blue paint on there. I rinse my brush, wipe it gently on here. Now remember, we don't pull our paintbrushes dry because that will pull off this part, which is called the ferrule, and the ferrule holds the brush in, the fibers. And if we keep pulling, it'll come off like we've seen many times in class. Now I got a lot of moisture off of this, so I'm just going to take what moisture there is and just blend around without really adding more paint. I'm just taking, because you can tell, I mean, the paint is really dark, so you can tell there's a lot of paint available to move around. I'm leaving a tiny bit of light there, so it looks like, even though there's really not that much shine there. And this one has very little, in fact, I'm gonna get rid of some of that I've picked up. All right, everything looks pretty good. I think I could pick up some of this. Make sure my brush is clean. I don't want to put blue with the orange. So what would happen if I did blue with orange? I bet you know. I'm gonna turn brown. They're complementary colors. Okay, that's a little better. That's a little better. Okay, let's get this guy. Oop. Now, the last thing, other than, just basic tweaking, refining the edges, the last thing is add the shadow. The shadow is going to make this so it's not flat objects, but they'll look like they're three-dimensional. So I always love to take a blue as my shadow. It's so beautiful as a shadow, and particularly with the complement of the So one thing you're noticing is I don't put a ton of water, but I don't want my brush to be dry. So there's a tricky line there. Yeah, that blue, I changed the blue. This actually comes over here more. You can blend it out. But one thing is that you want to have your shadows going the same direction on all your fruit, hopefully. Yeah, here's a little bit of a shadow coming this way too, but it's faint. And this one I have actually something back here, but that's probably from the overhead lights. Okay, so this is a super quick example, and I really hope you do enjoy watercolor painting. It's fun. It can be tricky. There's a lot to learn about controlling it, but it's very cool when you get it done and you can step back and say, oh yeah, that looks good. So I challenge you to do this. I hope some of you actually watched the whole video from my last one and did the assignment with the dentist chair. You'll have to send the video, or I mean, finished artwork to me. And let me see what you came up with. Oh, and at the end, be sure to sign your name and put the date in pencil. Bye for now.